Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to Somewhat Daily Tarot and Rune for the 20th day of February, 2019. Well, I hope everyone got out to see the moon last night. I had very limited time because there were clouds, but I was able to get out and at least stand there for a bit and appreciate the moon and draw down her energies. And I took some pictures, and I already have the cover designed for my latest book, but I don't know. I might take and redo it with one of the pictures I took last night. I just think they turned out really well, but I don't know. I'm going to have to see how the title lays out on it and everything, so I may just leave it alone. You know, every time you start changing things, after you get something you like, and then you start changing it, and then maybe you end up with something that's even worse, and it's like, oh, why did I do that? So I don't know. I'll think about it. I'll play around with it today and see what I can come up with. If it looks good, then I'll go ahead and I'll replace the cover with the new one. And then I just need to read through it a bunch more times and proofread it and make sure it's all the way I want it. And then I think I'm going to be ready to publish it. So I'll let you know, though, when I do that. I'll do the Kindle version first, I guess. I wasn't sure if I was going to go through Kindle again or if I was going to use Draft to Digital or if I was going to use Apple. I don't know. I've signed up with everybody. I was just publishing through Amazon, and then I just started looking around to see if there was anything else. The advantage of using somebody other than Amazon is that you can publish on other platforms. Other booksellers will take your work. So Draft to Digital does that. So I may do that, but I don't know. I may just stay with what I've been doing. It's easier, but I don't know. Everybody does business with Amazon, and everyone has Kindle books, so I just figure it might be just as easy to do that. They used to have a separate thing called Create Space for the trade paperback version of the book, and I'd always start with the Kindle one, and then I would go ahead and I would do the other one. And now I guess they've merged the two or something. So I noticed that the last time when I published When Vampires Attack, I noticed that it was a different procedure to do the paperback. So I just thought that it was a little bit easier, actually. So I don't know. We'll see what I do. I haven't decided yet. Well, there went a card on the floor. Let's see what it was. Well, it's the Five of Swords. We'll put that back and we'll see if I pull that. Sometimes I do. It's weird. I don't think I've done it during these little YouTube gatherings that we're doing, but I've done it before where I'll drop a card on the floor, I'll put it back, and I'll shuffle, make sure I've really shuffled well. And doggone it if I don't pull that card. It's like, well, the rumor is, if you drop a card, that's your card. So just remember, Five of Swords. Don't take your eye off the ball. It looks like it's mostly there was some conflict and one person won in the typical rendition, the traditional rendition of the Five of Swords. I just don't particularly care for the card, It just seems like the guy on the card picking up the swords he's like he's looking back at the other two and laughing, Well, I don't know. Gloating, maybe, is how it feels to me. So being smug about when you win over somebody else, I just don't think that feels very good. So anyhow, but today is a 2 day. It's a 2 numerology, being a 20 that reduces to 2. So balance, duality, polarity, maybe a decision. It's also the crone phase of the moon tonight. Well, right now, actually, it started probably around sometime in the 7 o'clock hour. It would have started, I guess. So you can work on magics of, I always do alignment during the crone time of the, or if I want to really bring something to a resolution, I might do something during the crone phase. I actually just like to be still during the full moon. I don't like to do a whole lot. I get really impacted by it, and so I just try to be quiet. If I'm going to do anything, I usually do it either in the maiden phase or during the crone phase of the full moon. So I might do a working tonight. I don't know. We'll see. See how I feel. Sometimes I just like to be and not do anything at all, you know? Maybe do a divination or something just for myself. That's always nice to do. I think I'm just about done shuffling here. Being a Wednesday, today's Wednesday? Yes. No? Today's Thursday? What is today? Is it Wednesday or Thursday? Wednesday. Okay. That's what I thought. You are going to work some magic, though. You might be able to do it around surrounding communication using Mercury's influence as well, because today's a Mercury influence day. Being a Wednesday, yellow and purple are the colors. You'd use citrine. And there's a thing about citrine. I actually bought a untreated piece of citrine, and it doesn't look as pretty as the other citrine. Usually what they do, I don't know if it's they're taking quartz or amethyst or what the heck they're taking, but they heat treat it, I guess. You can always tell because it's this really pretty yellow, but then it's got this whiteness part of it. And that, I guess that's the heat treated kind. Now the other citrine doesn't look like that. At least the piece I got was a real dull looking piece. I like it though. It has a little bit different vibration to it. So if you're wanting something that, if you're wanting to you might just try to get one somewhere and take a look at it and compare the two, and you'll see the difference. I don't know that one is necessarily better than the other, although it would seem that whatever you don't do to something, if you leave it in its natural state, theoretically it might be more resonant, with whatever energies it happens to possess, but I don't know. I like the others. I have a bunch of it, but I think this is the only piece I have that's not been heat treated and turned into citrine, I guess you could say, because I don't know that regular citrine that they mine. I don't know that they heat treat that. I think it's something else that they heat treat to turn it into citrine, but I'm not sure about that. I thought that's what I read though. Maybe not. But anyway, let's if you haven't been here before, I'll just go ahead and I'll go through this, what I do here. Periodically I'll do that. I don't do it every time, but it occurred to me that if someone's new, they have no idea what I'm doing. Well, anyway, what this started out to be was one rune and one card every day, well, 4 days a week anyway. And that always turns into usually 3 cards in one rune. But I just take a look at the day's influences, things to sort of pay attention to. And to do it, I count and I take the 13th card. And that's just my process. But I don't take the 13th rune. There's only 24 of them. So I don't do that. I just go in and I feel around and I let them fall through my hand. And whatever's left is the rune for the day. So let's get started and we'll do that. And if it's your first time and I pull a court card, I'm going to pull another one, which I did, Queen of Pentacles. The reason I do that is because court cards sort of need something to interact with, because they can mean the individual on the card or who the individual represents. So in this case, an older woman of authority, or the mother, maybe, or it can mean the qualities that she possesses. So she really needs to have someone else to interact with. But again, if it's your first time here, welcome. It's nice to see you. I hope you click subscribe. I'd love you to do that. And if you've been here before, thank you so much for coming back. I appreciate you. But the Queen of Pentacles, I really love this queen. I love all queens. I don't particularly care for the kings, but I really love the queens. This one, though, is the most settled, I think. She's she's sitting there, you know, her she's got the garlands all around her in sort of an archway. She's got I just love her throne that she's sitting on. It's sort of sculpted there. You can see the pattern in it. It's really beautiful. You can see the mountains in the distance. I don't know if they're snowy or just a white alabaster mountain. But it kind of does look like she's sitting in amongst all this greenery amidst the snow. Let's take a look. I see what may be two rivers, but they're not blue. So I'm not sure what that is. That's why I wonder if it's snow. But you can kind of see that over here on this side of the card. You see that? So I don't know if that's just snow. And then you see over here, and these might be clouds over here on this side of the card, on the other side behind her. But it almost like she's this jewel in the middle of, you know, winter, maybe. You know, that here she is. She's just sitting there and she's just waiting. And she's holding a pentacle in her hand. So she's holding her wealth in her hand. And she's looking at it. The Queen of Pentacles is benevolent. She's practical. She's earthy. You know, she's basically the quintessential Earth Mother. She's nurturing. She takes care of the tribe. She takes care of her people. When she comes up in a reading, you know, you're either talking about someone, a woman in your life, or perhaps it's you, or well, we'll get to the aspects of it. But you're basically talking about someone who's trustworthy, and maybe that's you, or maybe it's someone in your life. An older woman is present in your life, but the qualities of that woman are about being trustworthy and practical and intelligent and wise and ambitious, but yet she's kind and benevolent and generous. She doesn't seem to be hanging on to her wealth. It's just sitting there. You know, she's just sort of, you know, calmly, gently holding it is all. It's all she's doing. She's not keeping it tight to herself. So in other words, she's willing to share it with others. But I can't get over how, if it's indeed a snowy background that's in the background of this card, you know, you're looking at, you know, the dichotomy or the duality between dark and light, aren't you? With winter representing dark and springtime and all the flowers representing light. And so you could almost look at it as the god and goddess contained within the card, if you view the mountains in the background as snowy and depicting winter, because it's like she's just this little jewel, this little gem of fertility and beauty amidst all of the darkness. So possibly. We'll keep that in mind, though. Let's draw another card, though. Again, with the court cards, I do this because I want her to have something else to interact with. Otherwise, I do it because I want to know, okay, just get a little more information, or maybe, okay, what happened before to precipitate this? Like when I dropped the Five of Swords on the floor, you know, if that had been our first card, then I would have wanted to pull another one simply because I wanted to know what happened. What caused this? Or where are we going with it? Either way. Let's take the 13th card again. Oh, I love this card. It is the Nine of Pentacles. So here we see the Queen, the same woman. We had this just the other day. Nine is about completion. And here she is living a settled life. I love the robe that she's wearing. I love that. And she's got her falcon on her arm there. She's going out on a hunt, perhaps. She's got all the pentacles around her, all of her wealth, all of her finery. And this is basically about living a settled life, isn't it? So basically, this woman here, we'll just view her as the same woman. Or she's a woman within the kingdom. And because of the benevolence of the queen, she's able to live a settled and fulfilled life, full of abundance and love and joy. That she has all she needs. There's a passage in the Course in Miracles where it says, "I need do nothing. That I possess everything I have, everything I need do nothing." And when you believe that you are the creator in form, if you believe that the creator is all that is, and that all that is breathed out life, and this is all just a projection of the thought patterns of the creator, then we are all essentially the creator in form. So the nine of every time I see the Nine of Pentacles, there I think of that line from the Course in Miracles, that I need do nothing. Because if you're the creator, you need do nothing, but just experience things. Give it no more significance than that. It's just something to experience. It's tough to do, though, isn't it? We get all caught up, all freaked out about this or that. Make it so much more real than it needs to be. It's just that it all feels so real, doesn't it? Especially the difficult moments. Maybe those feel more real than even the happy ones. I don't know. Well, I pulled the Page of Swords here. Now, pages are about new beginnings. They're about youthful people. I'm not going to pull another card, though, because it's a court card. I'm not going to do that again. It's the third one. We just get what we get there. And but here you have some clouds in the background. There's movement, obviously, a little bit of wind going. You see the mountains in the background. You almost see motion underneath his feet. The ground that he's standing on, it almost looks like it's moving, doesn't it? The wind is blowing back his, looks like his hair back there, is it? Or what is that back there? It doesn't look like it's something flying, although there are birds up there. No, that looks like his hair. It's just a different color. It's a little darker. But pages denote usually a message. They can denote a birth, new beginnings. Pages are thought to be the seeker, the student, the message bearer, the news bearer. And swords is the air element, so that's definitely a message. That's communication. That's the intellect. Well, that's interesting. So I'm wondering, it doesn't feel like, though, that this is a message that the page brings to the queen. What I think that this actually is, I think what the page is trying to say to us is that there's a message that the queen is trying to tell us, and that is I would say share abundance with others. Be happy with what we have. The I need do nothing. Maybe that is the message. Full of Rune, though. We're not always grateful for the things we do have. It's always like we're in this search for more. We can't ever simply be happy, happy with what we have. There's always that inner friction for more, can never be satisfied or patient or, just to allow things to be as they are. And what I get from The Queen of Pentacles is a woman who's just willing to let things be. To sure, make sure everything is in its place for everyone, make sure everybody has what they need, but then just be in the present moment. Be happy with who you are and where you are and all of that, instead of this constant quest to have, more, and to never have this feeling of happiness. It's the difference between, I think, moving from house to house and finding one that you can just live in. You have people that they do that. They change jobs all the time, and they move from place to place. They live, well, I mean, you could think of it in terms of living an unsettled life. Now, in their view, they're just looking for something different to do, maybe a new place to live and more experiences. So they've embraced the notion of the unsettled life, and they're making it work for them. Uh, I remember one time, I talked to somebody. I was in college, and I was talking to this guy, and he was kind of like that. He was like, well, he was in his 30s. He'd been to college twice, I think, and decided to do something else, and went back and got another. I think I got a 2-year degree that time, and started working in computers. And I said, so have you finally settled on your career? And he just looked at me with this look of horror. He's like, no, no. I said, well, you don't want the pension at the end of the 30 years, because I'm kind of teasing him. And he's like, oh my God, I couldn't imagine staying someplace for 30 years. I couldn't imagine that. I would get so bored. I'd have to be doing all kinds of things. So, so some of us, though, are able to do this, and some of us aren't. But maybe the message is to maybe try to look at what you have instead of what you don't have, and focus on that, and see if that doesn't maybe give you a calmer perspective. It's not that you don't want to go out and, explore more opportunities and possibilities. I'm not saying that. It's just sometimes we get ourselves in this focus where we're so busy looking over there, we can't look right here, and we forget what we actually have in front of us. So it's kind of I think that's where this is going. But the rune today is Othala, or not Othala, Alyiz. This is Alyiz. It's the 15th rune of the Elder Futhark. So it's a 6 energy, so higher self. And you see air, fire, and water up top, focusing down into form or earth, which is essentially, you can look at this either coming down into form or going up into spirit, however you want to do it. It's just the as above, so below nature of a lot of these runes. I mean, it just contains it right there, Some of it is more in the doing of life, and some of it is more in the energetic flow between spirit and form. But with Alyiz, that's what it is. It's a rune of protection. It represents the elk, sort of with the antlers, It also represents the Bifrost Bridge, or the Rainbow Bridge of higher consciousness. Let's take a look and see what else the grimoire says, though, about it. See if I can find, oh, there it is, turned right to it. There was one thing that I wrote down here, 2 sides of the same swan, which I thought was interesting. I still haven't quite figured out how that works. I'm sure I'm not as into animal references. I don't relate as well. Maybe more so with tree references, but not so much with animal references. So I'm not really sure what the Rune Master felt was the 2 sides of the same swan, other than you can see 2 sides to, I mean, if you look at it in terms of, right and left, they're obviously talking about that, but I'm not sure, unless it's the angle, maybe. It sort of looks like the graceful angle of a swan, maybe. I don't know, of the neck of a swan. But this protects from harmful forces. It's thought to be the guardian rune of activated higher consciousness. But But basically, it helps us connect with divinity within. Okay, we always think divinity is outside of us, and I suppose it's true in a sense because our spirit spills out over the body. So yes, part of our spirit is outside of us, but it's still, if we would just think in terms of that as being who we are versus the body and just sort of ignore this, then we might be able to change that focus a little bit. But basically, that's what this is. So this would be the guardian rune of activated higher consciousness, activating that awareness with our true self, basically. And maybe that's the message, maybe that's the reason for the Page of Swords, to remind us of really the message of who we are, and that we can, if we live in the present moment, live an active and settled life, or rather a joyful and settled life. One that we generate abundance instead of waiting for abundance to come to us. We generate that abundance by simply that alignment with source presence. I mean, life is about give and take. But if we are the creator, focused into form, then why aren't we creating all of the time? Why aren't we emitting more than reacting? And maybe that's the message. Shall we emit more of our creative flow today instead of reacting to what we're seeing around us? Because the Queen is just a very centered focus, isn't she? She's right in her own moment. She's right in her own space. She's concerned about her own reality here, not about the reality that's going on behind her. And the same is true for this woman, whether it's another rendition or depiction of the Queen, or it's someone, which I think is what it likely is. Commoners typically didn't go on hunts, and she's definitely doing that. She's got her falcon right there. So I think instead of a message coming in to disturb that, I think the message is this, that we live in that present moment of source presence and emit that creative energy instead of reacting to the egoic nonsense around us. Because this woman isn't doing that, is she? She's just very secure in her own self and in what she's doing and in her own awareness. And whatever else is going on, oh well, that's interesting. And in terms of protection, the protective aspect of values, then, that's really our greatest protection from the chaos of the world, is to just turn our focus away from it and just don't engage with it any longer. Sometimes I think that's what, particularly women, when they get to be my age and older, you just realize that the struggles of life, at some point, things are just going to shake out the way they do. And, you can struggle against it forever and a day, or you can just sit back and go, well, I'm done, I'm done struggling. I'm done trying to make things be anything other than what they are. Nobody's listening to me. So, nobody seems to care what I want. And so you just get to the point, I think, where you have to find your own happiness within. And it's sad that it takes you till you're, retired to figure some of that out, maybe. But I think that when you're in the midst of life and raising your kids and working and doing all that you do, you're in this mode where you're having to keep going. And it's when you can finally stop and take stock and look around and see what it is you have and maybe you learn to be happy for once instead of always in this struggle mode. So maybe it takes that movement, further into age to do that. I don't know. It would be nice if we could figure all that out early on in life, wouldn't it though? If we could just find a way to be settled and aligned in who we are and in our true reality, and use that then to create versus reacting. It would just be, I think it would make life a lot calmer in the world, but that's just not how things are. You grow up, you find a career, maybe you go to college, you get married or you don't, you have kids or you don't, and your life takes a direction. I think the message though is to remember along the way to take that time to live in the present moment as much as humanly possible, to not let too much of the future, you know, create fear in your mind over, oh my God, how am I going to do that? 9 times out of 10, you figure it out when you get there. So I don't know. I mean, that whole idea of don't borrow trouble. I think that that's true. And then on conversely, if you're always letting the past come into the present and you can't move forward, it's a problem either way. And I think what the Queen and the message of the Page of Swords and what the Queen is trying to tell us is sometimes you just got to you just have to sit back and create your own little place around you and ignore what's going on out there and just be still and be happy in spite of it all. So sometimes, you just got to let everybody else go do their thing and be happy with your own. So anyhow, I think that that's the message of this. Every time I see Allies, it's like, okay, time to align. Allow spirit to come in and inform what's going on. So, excuse me. We didn't walk today because we weren't sure. We thought we were supposed to get a couple inches of snow, and it doesn't look like we did. But I just decided that my head wasn't in it, so here we are. I decided to do this early instead of later. Anyhow, okay. So the Queen of Pentacles, the Nine of Pentacles, and the Page of Swords. An interesting message of alignment. Oh, and Allies. An interesting message of alignment in our own source presence today. To find that calm space within and be happy in spite of what else is going on. Anyhow, I guess that's it for today. So thanks so much for stopping by. Click subscribe if you haven't. I'd love you to do that. I hope you come back tomorrow and have a wonderful day. And be good to yourself, be good to one another, and blessed be.